Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from New York City, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast. Today I'm your host, Kastuba Das, and today we're missing the co-host, Raghunath, who is now out in California, right, Mara?
Yeah, that's right. He had an event in Culver City at Kumi's yoga studio last night.
How did that go?
I heard it was great. I heard it was totally packed. He signed a lot of books, did some kirtan.
I bet he did. That's wonderful. Good news. So he's out there. Yeah, his book, From Punk to Monk, has just come out. And he's out there on a book tour, I suppose you could call it, a book and concert tour.
Yeah.
So, but today we have we're bringing in a very special guest, a guest that we've had quite a few times in the past, and that is Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, the spiritual scientist. We'll bring him on in a moment. But before we do, why don't we check in with you, Mara, and see if you have any announcements for today?
Sure. We have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today at noon and 1:30, and Cult of Cain Asana class with Josh Cain tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. for our Patreon members.
Okay. And we'll continue at this time tomorrow at 7 a.m. And Chaitanya Charan will be back. I think Saturday will be a day off. Oh, Sunday I got it lined up, Mara.
Oh, great. Who do we have?
We have... there was a question that was written in that came in from Bhaktavatsala, who's my old dear friend, and he's one of our Sage Group leaders. And from that group, within that group, there are two people that are, I don't know if I remember this right, but like they may be some sort of clinical psychologist or something like that. And they had a list of questions that had to do with understanding mental health issues in relation to bhakti. It's like, is bhakti supposed to just clear them up? You know, I mean, or are other, more modern or Western, applications of psychology or mental health remedies important to us? And it's a question that I really wanted to reach out to some people that are experts in the field. So we're going to have Danya.
Oh, great.
And you bring her back. And Kula Pradeep, bring him back too. So both professionals in the field. So that'll be Sunday at 8. I think that'll be a really interesting show. And then we just got to try to fill in a few more slots before Raghu gets back next. I guess he gets back a week from today, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, but why don't we welcome our guest, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Let's unmute you, and I want to welcome you back to Wisdom of the Sages.
Delighted to be here.
Always a joy to have you. Where are you right now?
I'm also in California. I'm in San Jose. Just came here yesterday.
Oh, okay. That you're visiting ISKCON Silicon Valley out there?
Yes.
Nice. Doing some speaking engagements?
Yeah, a couple of college engagements, one company Salesforce I'll be speaking in, and then three engagements in the temple and the devotees' homes.
Oh, okay. Nice. Anybody out in that area, or are some of these public programs people can attend?
Yeah, Sunday, I think Sunday there's a usual Sunday program here.
Sunday in the temple in ISKCON Silicon Valley, which is in San Jose, right? That's San Jose.
San Jose. And then I went to San Francisco also. They have the Bhakti Forum in San Francisco, Sunday evening. So those two programs.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's good to have you back. Just for, I mean, many of our listeners know you well. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is, he's been a brahmacharya, a monk, grown out of, you could say, grown out of the Chaupati temple, the Radha Gopinath temple in Mumbai. Going back, how long have you been practicing bhakti as a brahmachari?
Yeah, I was introduced in 96. Then I became a brahmachari in 98. Since then, I've been trying to do something.
Okay, you've been doing a lot, and you were coming out of the university there, right? And with studies in engineering, is that correct?
Yeah, electronics and telecom engineering. I was studying. That's in the college itself. I was introduced.
Yeah, and so one of my appreciations of Chaitanya Charan, we call him the spiritual scientist, is he has an engineer's mind, and a very, very refined, sharp engineer's mind that he applies to the teachings of yoga and to the teachings of bhakti. And so it's so helpful sometimes because, you have a topic, it's thrown out there, that the ideas are sometimes subtle, and you're immediately able to categorize them and come up with analogies and so on that really clarify things. And this has been expressed through many books that you've written and articles that you've written. You have a daily Bhagavad Gita online offering, I suppose we could call it, which is it called Daily Gita?
Gita Daily.
Gita Daily, yes. And so people can search for Gita Daily, Chaitanya Charan, and find that. As well as, how many books are under your name now?
It's about 29 now.
29 books. So that's a lot of material out there. So you have been doing something. And you're someone that we always really love to bring on the show. So thank you for coming up. I know you're waking up early on the West Coast there to do this.
I'm happy to be of service. Whichever part of the world I go to, whether it is Australia, New Zealand, or Singapore, or of course UK here, America, I always meet people who are not just hearing but are nourished by wisdom of sages and are inspired by it. So I think what you are doing is a incredible service to humanity, and it's my fortune, privilege to be of some assistance to you.
Okay, thank you so much, bro. So let's get right into it. Let's get into Bhagavatam. It's been a while since we've spoken about Bhagavatam because we've had some days off with Raghunath's travel, and we've read about his book, and we've had some Q&A days. So I think it's been about a week. So we need a little bit of maybe a little bit of recap. But why don't we first chant our shloka? I'll chant the shlokas, and we can get into Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta pareshva badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Sralakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual masters have opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto them. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is Canto 7, Chapter 7, which is what Prahlad learned in the womb. This is we've been hearing Sri Prahlad, the little boy bhakti yogi, about 5 years old or so. He's been he's in his class in school. This is a class by and for demons, you could say. It's a class specifically designed to indoctrinate children into deeply materialistic thought, with a sense of antagonism towards the divine, you could say. And but he can't relate to that kind of thought. He can't relate to thoughts of friends and enemies. His mind is always absorbed in devotion, and it's very tangible, and it's something that the other kids in the class pick up on. And he shared his thoughts with them. He shared his thoughts about yoga, his thoughts about bhakti, and they've responded by saying, where did you get this knowledge? We don't hear anything like this from our parents. We don't hear anything like this from the teachers in our school. It's not coming from here. And you're kind of like the son of the king. You're like a prince. They don't even let you out of the house practically. So where did you get this? And earlier in this chapter, you described, actually, when I was in the womb of my mother, the great sage Narada gave her instructions in bhakti and in yoga, and it's those instructions that I live by now, and those instructions that I want to share with you. And that's where he began to speak. And the rest of this chapter here it's kind of like a presentation on bhakti yoga from beginning to end. It begins with the fundamental kind of teachings about that any yoga that will be important in any yoga path. It kind of begins with the discernment between matter and spirit, and because without that we don't even understand who we are. We have to understand that I am spirit, I am conscious, I am eternal. I'm in a body that's made of matter, that's temporary, that's insentient. I'm moving through a world that's governed by certain material laws that's affecting my experience. I need to somehow, through clear vision, disassociate myself from my body, disassociate myself from my mind, disassociate myself from the material realm that I'm moving in, understand who I am, and understand that it is separate from me. And that's the beginning. But this conversation, and we're right at the cusp of where this conversation shifts now. We're going to begin with text 28 today, which is kind of where he wraps up those kind of teachings and begins to shift into teachings of bhakti specifically, devotion specifically, what it grants. And as this goes on, it's going to get into the higher and higher stages of bhakti and what they look like. So he gives a pretty, in one sense, although it's not so many verses, it's a broad-ranging approach to let's say a broad-ranging presentation to bhakti. So are you ready to start, Chaitanya Charan? I'm eager to hear some of your thoughts.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
this chapter actually, you could visualize the situation as someone living alone, surrounded by people who have no understanding of what they're doing. And for the first time, Prahlad has the opportunity to share what is dear to his heart. Someone who is, if not receptive, at least interested. He has spoken about what is in his heart, the principles that guide his life. Briefly, he has just mentioned those to his father. He's mentioned them in his class. But his focus here is on, he's got what we can say a captive audience, a receptive audience, not a captive audience. And he's outlining the worldview that guides his life. And it is always a challenge when we are trying to share a worldview. How much more deep we go into that worldview? Because every worldview is like an ocean. At the same time, it's not just we want to tell people about the ocean, we also want to help them cross the ocean. So there is both an explanation as well as, you could say, an inspiration or a call for action. And both of these are going through simultaneously in parallel in this section. So the urgency of practicing spiritual life is also something which is a consistent undercurrent in this theme. So what is spirituality and why or how one should practice it? Now, not later. Both of those themes are coming over here.
Right. Okay, and so in the previous text, that the last text that we read, it mentioned these three states of awareness, which were a wakefulness, and then the dreaming state, and then the state of deep sleep, where it seems like one is almost entirely unaware. And maybe you could just share something about, like, why is this brought up? Why is this significant? I know that in the different yoga paths, they speak about these different states.
Yes. So basically, my understanding is that this is reflective of the path of the stages in the development of consciousness.
Okay.
That there is the soul, which is essentially who we are, and the soul has two coverings around it. The subtle body, which we can call simply as the mind, one of the components of the mind. The soul is surrounded by the mind, and then beyond that, it is surrounded by the physical body, which is what we call normally as the body. So now, when the consciousness comes out from the subtle body through the gross body, and then it comes out to the outer world, that is the stage of wakefulness, Jagruti. So which is what hopefully we all are in right now.
Okay.
So now, when the consciousness comes out only till the subtle body, but doesn't come out much to the gross body, it is there. Like suppose we have a flashlight and it is on a dim mode, and if we put some paper covering or something on it, then if it's a dim, very little light comes out. If it's fully bright, then through the paper, the whole light comes out.
I see.
So it's like, imagine there are two paper coverings on a flashlight. So if the flashlight is fully bright or substantially bright, then through both those layers, the light comes out. So that's like the wakeful stage. If it is slightly dimmer, then the outer covering is more or less blocking the light. There's just a bare glimmer, maybe there's something there. Normally, when a person is asleep, their consciousness is there slightly at the physical level. That's why
sometimes they may speak in their sleep, or
that's why they can sometimes hear an alarm, or if somebody shakes them or throws water on them. So both consciousness is both ways, that in terms of action, that's coming from inside to out, and also perception going from outside to in. So consciousness from our perspective has these two features, that there is from inside out the perception is happening, from outside in. When the consciousness moves outwards, then action happens. When it moves from outside to inside, then perception happens.
Okay.
So when it is barely there, that is the state of dreaming. That is the swapna stage. And then when it is not there at all, that means even the consciousness not coming out of the subtle body, then it is the dreamless state, the sushupti stage. So these are basically three levels of consciousness. And we could say we naturally cycle between these three as a part of our biological way of functioning. When we sleep, we normally go toward the sleeping state. Now, the deep sleep, it's not exactly the same as what science calls as deep sleep, or that there is no rapid eye movement or something like that. It refers to a very reduced state of consciousness when even the mind is not active.
Not in a dreaming state.
As it is in a dreaming state. But now, beyond these three, there is a state of consciousness, because the soul is ultimately spiritual. So if you could consider these three layers to be like this around me, but there is in these three layers, we pursue basically material reality at different levels, either visualized in our mind, imagined in our mind, or perceived with our senses. But when the consciousness becomes awakened enough to perceive spiritual reality. That is the stage of Turya or Samadhi. So it is basically, while we are going up and down between these three levels of consciousness, there is a fourth higher level of consciousness, the spiritually awakened consciousness, which is the ultimate purpose of yoga, of bhakti, and he is directing them toward that consciousness.
Okay.
Now that level of consciousness can be, let's complete this part, arrived at in two different ways. One is, one just completely takes the consciousness out of the body, out of the mind. And it's like, if I have a flashlight, I just turn it around completely. And then where the paper covering is there, nothing is there. The flashlight is pointing in another direction. So this is when sages in the Himalayas sometimes get lost in samadhi, their eyes are closed and they're lost experiencing some other reality. So that's one way to go into a spiritual trance. The other is that the consciousness comes through the mind, through the body to the outer world, but it doesn't get caught in the outer world. It comes out in the outer world in a mode of service. We understand that the divine is present in this world also. And when we act in a mode of service towards the divine, devotional service, or we act in compassion, mode of compassion and service towards others, then that is also considered a spiritually awakened consciousness. So basically, Prahlad is going to encourage and guide his friends to come to the spiritually awakened consciousness along the second path.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And so here he's going to wrap up these teachings of this discernment yes, between matter and spirit. And the way he's expressing, you know, as he's bringing up these different states of wakefulness or dreaming or deep sleep, I understand it as also, it's just like in the Bhagavad Gita where it says, you know, observe the changes that your body go through. You were once in a child's body, and then you know, had a young adult's body, and then you're like a fully adult body, and then you're in an old body, and you, the awareness, the conscious being within that body, have witnessed all these changes. So understand that you're not that body. That the body is a different thing that's changing separately from you, and you experience that or observe that. And similarly, we can observe that our mind goes through different states of awareness, from wakeful state to the dreaming state. And then even in this deep sleep, which is, in one sense, we don't really directly observe, but we kind of come out of it and feel that, oh, I was there, you know, like I was in deep sleep, you know. When we come out of it, we realize that we're in some rare state, and that we kind of experience or witness these different stages, even somewhat mysterious, and they're a bit beyond our control. You know, I was, you know, right before I woke up this morning, I was dreaming. This is, you know, one of these weird dreams where, like, I had to get some kind of train ticket or something like that. You know, I had to go somewhere, and I was spending all this time just thinking about it and preparing myself for it. And, you know, I got to the train station to purchase the ticket, and there was some issue. Oh, no, this isn't where you get that ticket. You get it somewhere else. And I'm just kind of like going through like all this experience. And then you wake up and you realize all of these thoughts that were in my head, they just poof, they're all gone forever now. Like, it's like that experience that I was so deeply immersed in just a moment ago, it's gone. And it was just some very temporary mental configuration of some sort that came together for a moment. I had to experience it, and then it disappeared forever, becoming like meaningless, like eternally from that point on. But I'm kind of going through these stages, and I'm going through cycles of them again and again and again. I'm awake, I'm dreaming, I'm in deep sleep, I'm awake, I'm dreaming, I'm in deep sleep. And we are that something that's steady, something that's like of a different nature than that constant shifting. And Prahlad he's turning to these other kids in the class and saying, recognize that, understand that you're separate from it all, and then what to do about that. And he's about to get to that. But with this verse, he's going to kind of wrap it up. And let me read text 28 for you, Prabhu. He says, therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, your duty is to take to Krishna consciousness, which can burn the seed of fruit of activities artificially created by the modes of material nature, and stop the flow of the intelligence in wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. You can break out of this cycle. You don't have to be trapped going through these cycles anymore. In other words, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, their ignorance is immediately dissipated. And some thoughts on that?
Yes, it's a very relatable way of also connecting the flow, that the more we become an observer, the more we can understand that I am different from all this. And that fundamental distinction between the changing and the changeless, that is something which is foundational for spiritual growth. Because while change itself is unavoidable in life, but it is that we need to have some anchor. We need to be anchored, it's like, in something beyond that change. So in many ways, the search for spirituality begins when somebody is looking for that unchanging. And he's saying that, yes, you understand this physical side, the material side, but beyond that, there is the spiritual. It's like an ocean in which waves are coming. Some waves are smaller and they can be managed. Some waves are huge and they will just sweep us away. So we need some anchor in that ocean.
Yeah.
And our self-understanding of ourselves as unchanging, as spiritual, is that anchor.
It is interesting to think about dreams, because in a sense, we pass through life in the waking state with the illusion, I suppose you could say, that I'm in control. That if I'm in a certain circumstance, I can change that circumstance, and I can kind of guide or determine the experience that I'm having. Now, of course, we can't really do that. Otherwise, if we really had the power to do that, we wouldn't be experiencing so many of the unpleasant things that we are forced to experience in this world. But we do feel like, oh, I can shift this, I can adjust it. When we enter into that dream state, it's kind of like we enter into this world of experience where we feel very helpless. Sometimes when we go to sleep, some people, unfortunately, they have commonly they have bad dreams. And you may even be afraid to go to sleep, because now I'm totally vulnerable. Now it's just like I'm rolling the dice. Now anything can happen to me in the world that I'm about to go in. And I don't even know that I'm in a dream state when I'm in it. I'm just having to experience some bizarre world, commonly a frustrating world, sometimes a terrifying world. And there's nothing I can do about it. And so in one sense, what Prahlad is saying is we're kind of in that world even when we're in our wakeful state. We're kind of bound by past activities, past karma that we don't even know even how far back was it in this life? Was it in a previous life that's determined future experience that I'm meant to go through? And I'm stuck in this cycle, and I've been stuck in it for a very long time. How do I break free? There are all these different practices of yoga that one can engage in to kind of break out of this dream, right? To try to get into a realm where I'm no longer subjected to these experiences that are beyond my control. And so he's going to speak about this. And in the next text that we read, text 29, this is where it shifts, right? Now he's moving out of the instructions that had to do with, hey, take a look at the world, take a look at your body, take a look at your mind, realize how they're all constantly shifting, and you're the steady observer of all of that. And now he's going to move into like how to break free. And he's going to speak of yoga, but he's going to speak specifically about bhakti yoga. And so let's read text 29. He says, of the different processes, and I want to draw attention to something here. Well, let me read it first. Of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, right? If you want to become free from living in a dream world, even in your waking state, if you want to be free from being subjected to random experiences that go up and down, or maybe pleasurable one moment, but then suddenly you're stuck in a world of suffering, then there are different processes recommended for becoming disentangled from that. The one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. So he's saying one of these is coming directly from Lord Krishna, or coming directly from Vishnu. He says that process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. Okay. This is Vyasadeva, the author of all the Vedic literature, in his most important and conclusive work, the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's given so many instructions on so many different types of yoga, but in this Bhagavatam, again and again and again, so that we don't miss the point, he's coming out and he's saying, look, here's Prahlad. He's considered one of the Mahajanas. He's considered one of the great personalities, one of the great examples, one of the great teachers, like the topmost. And here he's saying that, yes, there are different paths that can help entangle you, but which one is the best? Which one is all perfect? Which one delivers the most? It's kind of the question from the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, when we were back with the sages in Naimisharanya, where all the sages, they were all learned in Vyasadeva's writings and all the teachings of yoga, but they're trying to understand, where does it all go? Or is it that there's many doors into this one mansion and they're all equally the same? And they were, in one sense, they were operating under that assumption, but they weren't finding satisfactory results. And so they turned to Sutta Goswami, and he gave the answer. Oh, it's bhakti. Now Prahlad is giving that same answer. It's that process by when you perform your duties through which you develop love for the Supreme. That's the one that's considered all important. And there's a word here, Prabhu, I wanted to speak to you about it. It says rati. It says that by which one anjasa rati, where one quickly develops rati. And this word rati, the Sanskrit word rati, it's the way that it's commonly used seems almost unyogic, right? Attachment, attraction. It's commonly used really even for like intimate or even sexual attraction or sexual enjoyment, or I think the way that it's especially meant here is like loving attraction, right? It's that yoga path through which one develops loving attraction. That's the one that's the best. That's the one that's considered perfect.
Yes. This is when I was telling about, when you get out of this world, or we turn up, the consciousness turns away in samadhi. Yeah. So one is that there's detachment, that, okay, this is temporary, this is deceptive, this is illusory, and I don't want to be a part of it. So we turn the consciousness away. And that's one way where detachment is not just desirable, but indispensable. Because all the changing is what is distracting us from the unchanging. Mm-hmm. But then the other way is that while there are changes, there is the unchanging which underlies the changing. And it can be reached through the changes in this world also. So but that the idea is we become entangled, not so much because we are experiencing the world and the changes within the world, but it is because we are getting so caught in the experiences that we are forgetting the Lord, who is the source of the experiences.
Okay.
Say, suppose somebody is watching a horror movie and they get completely horrified as they're watching it.
Okay.
And they are maybe sweating, shrieking, and even screaming. And on the other hand, say there is somebody that the movie is being directed by someone, and there is a person who is in connection with the director, and they are watching the movie. They're watching the movie attentively, but because they know this movie is being directed, hey, that's good. Hey, where is this going?
Mm-hmm.
So while they are at one level experiencing whatever is happening, they're not oblivious to the experience, but it's like they have a link with the director. They know the director is in charge. And okay, where are you taking this plot? This plot line is going. Where is this going?
Yeah.
So there is an experience, but the way, say, a movie maker experiences a movie, or somebody from the movie making team experiences a movie, they can experience it from the audience perspective, but they can also experience it from a more detached perspective, more
Right.
unentangled perspective. So that way, we do experience when we're practicing bhakti yoga that there are these ups and downs. This went wrong, this went right. But when the attachment to the Lord is there, then if the focus is not, oh, this is a horror movie, I just want to close my eyes, I don't want to see the movie. And the efficacy is not on how well I can close my eyes or cover my ears. That is, okay, through it all, how well can I remember and see the director's expertise?
You know, it's interesting that you use this example. I think you could also even extend this a bit and say, or to view it from the role of the actor in the film, right? Because the actor, in one sense, is right in the middle of all the changes.
Yeah.
The actor is the one that's crying. The actor is the one that's smiling. But the actor is also aware of the director and aware of the nature of the film itself. And so, and so, although but they know they have a role to play. You know, they know that they have a role. I remember one time we brought you on, and we had a really great conversation about functional and fundamental identities.
Yes.
Right. that we all have a fundamental identity that is eternally I'm Krishna's loving service, and that manifests in some unique, special way. But we take on these we take on these functional identities, which are temporary dharmas, temporary roles. And in a sense, as an actor temporarily adopts an identity to play a certain role, in a sense, we also do that in life, right? Currently, I am a mother. Currently, I'm a father, and I'm going to play that role right now, and I'm going to play it well. You know, I may be a business person, or I may have this job or this duty to perform. Let me act in this play. Let me play this role in this film of life. Observing it all, experiencing it all, but in one sense, like you're saying, like an actor knows that this is just a role, and this is, you know, at a certain point I'm going to step away from playing this role, and I'll be me again. That in a sense, that's what we're doing in this world too. You know, we're moving through it. We're playing different roles, but we know that beyond this, there's the real us, and that us, it's that knowing who that me or that us is. You know, who we are. That we call sambandha jnana, right? This very fundamental knowledge of myself, my identity, and in our bhakti philosophy, understanding that identity is eternally linked to God, eternally linked to the root of all our existence, just as a leaf is eternally linked to the plant and the root that nourishes it.
Yeah, very beautiful. So it's like you can say we have these two roles, as an actor and as an observer.
Yes.
So it's that being an observer, at least sometime, to some extent, coming out of this play, We can't physically come out of this play, but at least in terms of our thoughts, we come out of this play and observe. Remember, it's a play. Now, when the word play is used, it's not to trivialize what is going on. It is serious that our actions do have serious consequences at some levels, but it is more to contextualize, not trivialize. Okay, this is right now, it is serious, but there is a bigger reality. In fact, one of the characteristics of bhakti yoga or of yoga in general, when can we know that we are growing in bhakti? It's when God, Krishna, becomes a bigger reality for us than the world. That. So every day when we are doing our japa, our sadhana, at least for a few moments, we need to usher ourselves into the presence of that divinity, something that connects us, reminds us, not just at an intellectual level, but more at an experiential level.
Yes.
That there is a reality beyond this reality that I'm going through every day. And to the extent we have that experiential confirmation or recollection, to that extent, when we face life's ups and downs, we respond to them appropriately, but we don't get consumed by them.
It's beautiful. Yeah. This is going to we're going to hear in the next few verses the method of practicing this yoga. He's identified bhakti yoga as the most perfect, which even that's a topic itself, because that could be easily misinterpreted as a sectarian kind of consideration. And he's going to identify bhakti, and he's going to talk about how it's practiced. And then he's going to begin to speak about the results of it on two different levels. In one verse, he's going to speak about it kind of like a more general understanding, or let's say the initial results of this practice. And then he's going to have quite a few verses that go into the very advanced stages, the results in the very advanced stages of practicing bhakti. But the initial results are that you begin to see God everywhere, that you begin to see God in everyone. In other words, that you have this constant awareness of God, just as a actor has, even though they're in their drama, they're very aware of the director. They can be aware of the director alone. We can be moving through this world playing our role, and at every moment be aware of the director behind it. And I was, it was even just yesterday, I was thinking that when we hear descriptions of, say, like Ashtanga yoga, which is a method of yoga wherein the goal is to develop one's powers of concentration. There's 8 limbs to the practice of Ashtanga yoga that begin with yama niyama, your different lifestyle choices that will be helpful in settling the mind. And then there's asana, so that physically that your body ceases to be like fighting against you and settling the mind, and you get all of the channels in the body, all the systems in the body flowing very smoothly, right? The digestive system, the circulatory system, the skeletal system, the muscular system, you get it all kind of moving smoothly. And that's helpful for the mind to become more lucid and settled. And then there's pranayama, that through breathing, there's a connection between the breathing and the mind, and through patterns of breath, one can begin to settle that mind still more. And then pratyahara, one begins to withdraw the senses, which are always, when they're going out into the changing world, it's hard to keep the mind settled. But when you withdraw them, then the mind starts to become more settled. And then from that point on, there are different levels of concentration. And the way that the Ashtanga yogis, one way that they measure this is really in length of time that you can remain concentrated, right? There's dharana, where one practice is focusing the mind on one object. And it's said that one's achieved the goal of that dharana when you can hold the mind steadily on one object, completely steadily on one object for just 13 seconds, right? If you can hold that mind there on one spot, even just for 13 seconds, you've mastered this advanced level of, yoga, and then when you can hold it there longer, you can enter into a state of consciousness called dhyana, which is sometimes translated as meditation, but this is a very deep form of focus, a very deep form of concentration, wherein mysterious things are revealed to you, things that normal people just can't pick up because of your concentrated focus on a particular object. Mysterious things about that object are revealed to you. And then ultimately, when one can, for long periods of times, can maintain that, they can extend it still longer. And through expanding the length of time, one can enter into this deeper stage called samadhi, wherein one begins to experience something of their own true nature. And all of the mental programming within our mind is sometimes they say it's like disintegrated, or perhaps we could say that it becomes, in a sense, almost meaningless to us. We see it for what it is, and we cease to be controlled by it. But I was thinking about this idea that expanding the length of the period of focus, or expanding the length of the period of our awareness, this is fundamental in, as Ashtanga Yoga is laid out, and in our bhakti practice. Although we're not necessarily trying to enter into a state of trance, wherein, as you were saying, the focus all goes inward, we may be practicing it by the consciousness being focused outward into this world through service. But how deep is that focus, and is that connection, is that awareness of who I am in relation to the director, right? To Sri Krishna behind everything? Do I see Krishna in the heart of every living being that I'm talking to? And, or can I be in that state of awareness, not just momentarily, but can I extend the amount of time in a course of an hour, in the course of a day, in the course of one round of chanting japa? When I chant japa, can I sit down and, over the course of, say, 7 minutes or so, can my awareness be fully focused on hearing that name? I have a very difficult time still doing that, but I feel encouraged when the length of time within that round extends. Like, if we were to say, you know what, only in that 7 minutes that Kaustubha was chanting that round, his mind was absorbed in hearing that vibration and not distracted to some external stimulus, but it was focused for, let's say, out of those 108 mantras, it was focused on 11 of them. I'd be like, okay, that's where I'm at, unfortunately, But if through practice and through prayer and through mercy, it becomes 22 of those mantras. Well, now we're moving in the right direction, and if eventually it could become 108. And if, as I pass through life, rather than occasionally having thoughts where I'm perceiving I'm God everywhere, where I'm aware that God is in my heart right now, I'm aware God is in the heart of the person that I'm speaking to right now, that if I can expand the length of time, the percentage of time in my hour, in my day, in my life, that I have that awareness, then I'm moving towards this deep yogic state, this beautiful deep yogic state. And so the method of how to do that is going to be described in this next verse. It's a big, there's so much to discuss, and maybe I'll read it now and we can begin to discuss it, but maybe we come back to it tomorrow because our time is running a little short. You'd like to hear this?
One point, if I don't.
Yes, please.
About this, this often when we are practicing spiritual life, we also have to function in the world. So how do we balance? You're talking about this focus.
Yeah.
That's so one principle which I found very helpful is, it's not that we stop pursuing external things. When we function in the world, we need money, we need some amount of power or control, we want some amount of respect. But the idea is what we pursue externally is in harmony with what we value internally. So what we pursue externally is in harmony with what we value internally. So if that is there, then our external pursuits won't take us away from God. They won't take us away from spiritual reality.
Right.
So I am seeking money, but what am I seeking it for? I am seeking a particular position, a particular relationship. What am I seeking it for? It is so that I can be better spiritually anchored, so that I can connect with this person, serve this person, or use this particular resource so that I can share spirituality or solidify my own spirituality. So that way, so in one sense, focus and balance are sometimes seen as opposites. If you're focused in one thing, you're not balanced. Because when we are focused, then we are not aware of other things. But the focus and balance both can come when there is that what we value is consistent.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, just like when you're riding a bicycle, you're moving.
Yes.
But you're focused in moving in one direction. And the more that you're focused, actually, the more balanced. It's easier to stay balanced. Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm just moving in that one direction. No, that's really helpful. In other words, our samadhi, samadhi has to do with the mind, freeing the mind from its fluctuating from one point to another point, back and forth. And as you began, and one way to do that is to withdraw from everything external. But another way to do that is to keep moving in the same direction, even though your consciousness is moving towards the external, but it's always moving in one direction. And Prabhupada would say that's called Krishna consciousness. You're speaking of this, you're bringing this up, reminding me. It's a verse that I think about a lot from Bhagavad Gita. Is after the verse that mentions that whatever one is meditating on, whatever one is thinking of at the time of death, that determines their destination in the next life. And Krishna then says, Tasmat, therefore, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, all of the time, right? Mam anusmara, always think of me. But he doesn't say by sitting in a lonely place and shutting down your senses and going within. He says, Mam anusmara yujicha, always meditate on me, always remember me. This word, even anusmara, is a very yogic term, Mam anusmara yujicha, always think of me, and at the same time, engage in this duty you have as a warrior, engage in fighting, Arjuna. And so the translation is, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, at the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. And Prabhupada gives a very short, but very potent commentary. Maybe we can end with this commentary. He says, the instruction to Arjuna is very important for all people engaged in material activities, right? We all have this dream, this drama, this film that we're moving through in this world. Most of us don't just walk out of it. Most of us have to engage in it. He says, the Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them, and at the same time, think of Krishna. How? And he gives this clue, by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet Krishna Loka without a doubt. So, what he's saying is so simple. He's so simple that this mantra has the power to keep the mind moving, right? You can take your engagement in this world, do it for Krishna, as Arjuna is asked to do his engagement for Krishna, and engage in this chanting the name. And it's like riding a bicycle. It's like we're pedaling it fast enough so that the balance becomes easy, and we move rapidly towards the destination that we're aiming for.
Yeah.
Prabhu, yeah, please.
Yeah. So this cycle example is one of my favorite examples, because it also brings the idea that I want to go straight ahead, but I can't always go straight ahead. Maybe there's a block, so I have to turn left or I have to turn right. But then, even when I'm turning right, I tilt my cycle slightly for the right. After that, I come back again straight. I just stay tilted, I'll just go around and come back to the same place. So,
yeah,
like that. In the path of bhakti yoga, in the path of, you could say, engage yoga, there are times when we may need to be more engaged in our material responsibilities. That's like, okay, maybe I have to turn slightly this way. Maybe I have to turn slightly that way. And so there are times when we immerse ourselves more in our spirituality. So you organize these remarkable retreats to India or here, in here in South America. There it's not just say a 1 hour podcast that you hear, but they're there for a whole day, maybe for several days. So that time we are a little more focused on our spirituality directly.
The more straight path.
Yeah. So, but overall, it is through our inner withdrawal to focus on spirituality or through our outer engagement to connect with our spirituality. Both are ways in which we are moving onwards. So once the direction is clear, then how exactly I'll move in that direction, that becomes adjustable.
Right. Yeah, but you're always moving, but you're always moving forward ultimately. Yes.
Yes.
Farud, thank you so much. It's been a joy to be here with you. I look forward to diving into these following verses with you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you.
And Mara, do we have some takeaways for today?
We do. I got a lot, actually.
Okay.
All right. Prahlad's worldview is an inspiration, invitation, and explanation. You like that? It's a little long for a t-shirt, but
yes.
All right. Awaken the consciousness to perceive spiritual reality. Become the observer to understand the difference between the changing and changeless.
Sometimes I like to say the ever-changing and the never-changing.
Ooh, I like that. The perfect process develops love for the divine.
Okay, we're going to find out more about that tomorrow.
Anchor in something beyond change.
Nice.
Understand we're just actors being directed to play our roles.
So hard to understand sometimes, but such a relief to understand.
When we're faced with life's up and downs, contextualize rather than trivialize. This is a good one. Harmonize our external pursuits with our internal values.
I like that.
Stay focused on the destination and move forward with balance.
Okay.
And
yes.
Brighten your flashlight and wake up.
Okay. That's right. Come on. That dream state is so crazy, It's like the stuff you go through. Stuff you go through in these dreams. When we finally realize that this waking state is a dream too, and we break out of that, oh man, the relief one must feel. Thank you, Chaitanya, Charan, Prabhu. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, everybody that came and joined us this morning. Thank you all people that are listening to this on some podcast platform, whether it be YouTube or Apple Podcast or Spotify or all those different ones. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with you tomorrow here live on Zoom at the same time. If you want to join the Zoom group, what do you do, Mara?
Email us, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com.
Okay, and if you'd like to send in a question that we could take on our Q&A days, which we generally do on Saturdays, what would they do then?
Email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com.
Same answer.
Exactly. Keep it easy.
Okay, great. All right, everybody. It's been wonderful spending this time with you. As we move forward in our day, let us try to extend the percentage of our awareness to that root of all existence. May we be conscious of Krishna as we move through our day. Thank you all so much. As Raghunath would say, it's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue.